Hello, welcome to the Humanergy Leadership Podcast. I'm David Wheatley, and we're here to talk all things leadership. My guest this week is Liz Winninger, who is the CEO of Xtend, which is a credit union service organization. So welcome, Liz.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. I normally start by asking my guests to just give us a 30-second bio of how you got to where you are.
Yeah, I'm sure that can be very long for some people. It's like that interview question, like, tell me about yourself. Well, I live here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is where our CUSO is based out of. I'm from Wisconsin and Minnesota. I went to the University of Minnesota and got my undergraduate in kinesiology. Very far from what I do today, which is in the financial industry. I've been a figure skater and a figure skating and hockey coach for the past 25 years. I love doing that. I enjoy it a lot, and I've done it everywhere I've moved to. I've been able to move around a bit in my life, and I'm lucky that I've found some homes that I can coach at. And I've landed here in Grand Rapids, Michigan about 8 years ago, working for Xtend, and under the tutelage of Scott Collins, who was our president at the time, I was promoted to CEO of Xtend when he went on to do his next life. And here we have about 6 different organizations that are cooperatively driven, and we work really closely together for credit unions to be able to disrupt the marketplace, whether it's cost, access, even just resources that they wouldn't be able to have or just can share easily among one another.
Okay. I love the comparison of figure skating and ice hockey. One seems so delicate and the other one seems so violent. And so I'd be interested. We had talk another day about how you coach between those two things. But so You're a credit union service organization. Many people will be familiar with what a credit union does and is. What's a CUSO?
A CUSO is so credit union service organization. There are several different types of them, and you need to be designated as a CUSO. And basically it's just a few regulatory pieces, like over 50% of your revenue needs to come from credit unions. We are proud here at Xtend to be made the way that we are, which is very similar to a co-op. We have one owner, one vote. So our 90 owners each have equal ownership. Nobody owns more than anyone else. A lot of our partners operate that way because it's so close to a credit union, which really helps us to be able to understand the shoes the credit union walk in every day and live by the 7 cooperative principles, which, if people aren't aware, range from a democratic regulatory body to open membership to really, when you expand on it a little bit, it's making sure that you are giving back to the community that you serve, and that you can do that in many different ways. And credit unions, for example, will have very low rates on their loans. CUSOs can do it in many different ways. We have returns to our owners, and then we also make sure that for Xtend, it's access to resources that they wouldn't typically have if they were potentially going it alone. Originally, it started off as some would say small credit unions, which we try not to talk about credit unions in small and large, but smaller credit unions, getting them access. And we are a people company. So most of my products all center around people, like call center, marketing, bookkeeping. And as you can imagine, pandemic hits, we're in a really unique position to help people out because a lot of people couldn't be in the workforce due to many things, or credit unions were struggling there. So about 20 years ago, it's 2002, 5 credit unions put $5,000 into a hat, and they said, we believe in shared resources when it comes to working with people, and we want to see what we can do. There really wasn't a business plan around it. It was just, we know that we need something here. They also wanted to have a voice in something that they were building, and very realistic, obviously, price point. So for these credit unions to say, we want a seat at the table. We want to have control over an organization and the direction that it's going to go, but we don't have the money for a real investment. So we're going to invest our think power, and we're going to invest our time more than our money. So that's how Xtend was founded, and today we are doing very well. We're lucky. We have some really great partners that give us access to technology, which cuts down on cost, and that technology is actually owned by our owners, so they're not paying a fee. So really long answer to what's a CUSO, but that's
Well,
how we came about.
it's a great answer to, because Humanergy does a lot of work in the credit union world, and
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons we do is because we fit in that world, that those principles that are democratic and member owned rather than being shareholder owned at the and it's all about making money. It's all about serving the member in the credit union world, and all a credit union service organization is bringing credit unions together to be able to better serve the member.
That's right.
And through select services. So you work with credit unions all over the country. I said country. I was looking to see if I was going to get corrected and you were going to say world there, but all over the country to provide extra services that they maybe wouldn't be able to tap into, at least at the value that you offer, if they were going alone.
Yeah, one of our biggest value props that we always hang on to, not just disruptive pricing, because if you're only going after price, then you kind of lost sight of the value. And sometimes that can hinder the product that you bring. But we really talk about more creating access for people and creating expert resources. So even like billion-dollar institutions, billion-dollar credit unions, we work with them because they just don't have and they don't need someone in their organization who has a very unique specialty in a certain marketing area.
Right.
So some of our training focuses on that too. It's really all about everything that we do for. We've been able to build a very unique network that truly somehow, without having to sign a contract, truly believes in the movement of credit unions and so it's called the credit union movement. That's been around for about 40 years. And we each benefit in one way or another, absolutely, financially or otherwise. But also, we know that if one of our credit unions or one of our CUSOs wins, we all win because it creates more access for us in one way or another. If you think about either business-wise, financially, operationally, and all those aspects. So it really opens the door. So credit unions are truly like the place for collaboration. I think it's unique because when you look at community banks, well, they're owned by they're owned by their just a private ownership, not by their members. This is something that they've missed out on because they don't have that to their core, that they need to band together because it really benefits all community banks. And you start to see it a little bit more these days, but that's something that that credit unions globally have been able to do.
And I think it's interesting, the principles you mentioned, I think in some forms are called the Rochdale principles, which started the cooperative world. And Rochdale, the city or the town, is just about an hour and a bit from where I grew up. So
oh, nice.
It's good to see that that's it's on the west side of the country, but we won't talk about that. It's a whole different argument. But the Rochdale principles will say, hey, this is what a cooperative is really about. And credit unions are cooperatives, and credit union service organizations are cooperative as well. And so you're in this world that is really built around a greater good working connection with folks. So, and reduces the kind of competitive, self-focused way of operating, which is one of the reasons why it's interesting for those that have read What Great Teams Do Great and see where that fits in with what Humanergy believes in. The other thing that is interesting about credit unions is that about 80% of a credit union staff in the US is female.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big part of the Global Women's Leadership Network, which is a credit union based affinity group. So, and Yeah, tell us a little bit more of that. So if it's 80% of a credit union's people are female, I'm assuming 80% of their CEOs are female too.
Yeah, that's not accurate. It is getting better. It is there is more representation of females and really diverse groups at the top. And we're seeing that really that movement happen over the past few years. But that hasn't always been the case. And what global, it's a perfect timing for the question I was asked yesterday by Global Women's Leadership Network is run by the World Council of Credit Unions, which helps with the movement and bringing financial services to areas in need and where whatever that might mean. So we have some very cool initiatives that they have worked on over the years, building in areas that especially for Global Women's, we've built even like business development facilities that women could go to and learn how to develop their own business. That was in Nepal. But for yesterday, I was asked if Global Women's was never created and never would happen in the future, what were some of the things that you would miss out on? And for me, I thought that was a really great question, because I think sometimes you can be a part of an organization and you know what the purpose is and you kind of keep driving, but you forget the things that it brought you value. And by doing so, you then can bring it more value, because I wasn't in the position I am now when I first joined Global Women's. I'm lucky that Jody Carnes from Steve Answers, she's a brilliant lady who brought me along and brought me into the Global Women's Leadership Network, where I was able to meet other women who had very similar attributes as I do. And in the past, I hadn't seen that representation before. And I didn't know how, maybe not how to carry myself, but to be proud of some of those attributes that could be called stubborn, pushy, alpha, other words that I don't want to get you banned from your platforms for saying. But I was able to meet all these women, and in doing so over the years, I then could meet their network of women or men who have helped, who truly, like, I would not be the CEO of this company if it weren't for some of the things that the people I was able to meet along the way and learn from.
So what's one or two key lessons you've learned from that, specifically for a female leader in the organization? What's a couple of things you've really garnered?
Well, I think one of the most important, the first lesson, and I talk to people about this quite often, is it's not about me being a female. And I don't mean to belittle the importance of being a representative as a female. That is important, that I represent a leader as a female, for sure. But I think the first thing was, if you believe that you got the job because you are a female, you're going to have some issues with imposter syndrome or confidence issues, because imagine being chosen just because of an attribute that you had no control over. So recognizing your strengths and why you got the job, or why you are who you are and you're of value to your organization, I think is the most important part. So that's what I've learned, really, because it used to tick me off pretty much when someone was like, oh, it's so great to see a female, among a lot of men, because all my peers are men, where I am.
So it's really a matter of, I got the job because I'm good enough to get the job. And by the way, I happen to be female as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, I'd say, really is like, it's to recognize, and again, it's important to have that somebody in your life, people in your life who represent something that you want to be. So I have women that, like Jody, for instance, that I would watch how she carried herself. I'd watch how she guided a room, and she was a ball buster for sure, but she owned that and she was respected for that. So I'd say the second thing is also having people around you, whether they're in your organization or not in your organization, that you surround yourself that can be that representative. And it's not always females either. Sometimes it's men that you say, that's the style that I use too, and I'm going to own it just like they do.
Right. So it's hey, I got the job because I'm capable. It's not just a gender thing. Surround myself with people that I can tap into and learn from, and then really develop the skills that work for you.
Yeah. It always makes me think of Strength Finder 2.0. You know how it really encourages to play to your strengths. Diversity isn't really diverse, and I don't want to get in trouble for this, but diversity isn't always about having the token person in a role. It's what those people bring because of being who they have been over those years. So um, just being a female, I've experienced certain things that my male counterparts have not, just like they've experienced things that I haven't. So sitting at a table with them, that diversity, whether it's or even just political beliefs, kind of brings to the table um, enough different perspective that you can really build a stronger organization around.
Mhm. So it's just like anything. I always say, if you're a leader and you surround yourself with people who are just like you in every way, you don't need them. Get rid of them,
Right.
because you've already got that thinking. It's the value of bringing the different perspectives. And I like what you're saying is, and I bring different perspectives. And on top of that, by the way, I'm a woman. So let's not put the woman piece first. Let's put the capabilities piece first in
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 9 months pregnant right now. I'm definitely a woman. I'm experiencing, all the things that come with that 9 months pregnant. And I will not react well if somebody does try to say something about hormones or anything that come along with being 9 months pregnant. However, I realize like this is I'm making a child in my body. A man, whether they want to or not, obviously couldn't do that. So, you got to recognize it, but you also don't need that to be the first thing that you bring to the table.
Mhm. Yeah, I think in a recent conversation you and I had, if someone were to suggest you were making a decision based on the hormones, I think they would probably get the wrath of Liz on the backside of that.
Yeah, I recently had someone say something like that, and my response was not very tender to them. I don't think I'll ever make that mistake again with any other pregnant female.
Well, that's the other interesting dynamic. If your 80% of your workforce is female, and a great number of that in the credit union world is between 25 and 35, then I worked it out one day that on average 10% of a credit union staff are pregnant.
Yeah, that's
And
probably extremely accurate. Yeah.
well, I keep saying that to people, and they do the mental calculation and say, "Oh yeah, that's about right." So
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's ever put it that way. And if you think about it, like just like the pandemic has taught us, like if you know that that is happening, you should probably build part of what your company is, your maternity leaves and um, grace that you might give a new mom. You should probably build that into your organization. So it's a really good point.
So, well, and I hadn't intended this question, but since you've let the cat out of the bag, I'm going to ask another question. So female CEO, 9 months pregnant. What are some of the things that you're considering as you go into, because you're going to take some time off to have the baby, you're not going to have it at that desk, hopefully. And what are some of the things that you're considering there that are challenging as you go in? Because this is number 2 as well.
Yep.
So that are challenging you as you go into taking some time to focus on the important stuff.
Well, when I got pregnant the first time, and even the second time, you get scared because for your career, because while there's laws around it and whatever, you could think that somebody might discriminate against you and you might have less opportunity because you're pregnant and you're going to go through this time in your life where you can't focus 100% on work. Not that that should be what you do all the time anyway, but I was really scared when the first time I got pregnant. I thought that I thought my board would be upset, or I don't know how I thought they would react. I considered at the time I didn't have a contract, and I thought maybe that would stall negotiations or something. And it absolutely did not. My board was so over the top happy for me. Having most of them having children of their own, they knew that feeling of being pregnant and expecting, and all the joys that can come with that. one of my mentors just said to me, which was probably the hardest person to talk to when that I thought to deliver the news to. And he put it the best when he said, billions of women get pregnant all the time and it's going to be okay. Don't try to be superwoman.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you don't listen to everybody who's like, oh, things are going to change. You don't have to be superwoman. You still try to do all the things that you did before, and you can do them all. It's just you find different ways to compartmentalize your life and to be a good mom and be there. So that was the biggest concern I had when I first got pregnant.
Well, my guess is it goes back to one of the things you said earlier as well, is that you can do the job.
Yeah.
And so you're going through your head, oh, I'm pregnant now. Am I going to lose my job and all that kind of stuff? And I guess in some places that's quite a possibility, unfortunately, still today. But in your case, it was I got this job for a good reason. The people know that I'm planning and prepping. The people know I've got great folks in behind me who are going to be capable of taking care of stuff. And I'm going to come back even better for the fact that I'm now a double mum.
Absolutely. I think also my empathy has changed for my employees and understanding the positions that they're in from time to time, especially during the pandemic. And I think empathy is very underrated by people. Like, people can confuse that with being too sympathetic. But really it's knowing someone's perspective and walking in their shoes. So being a mother, I think, has made me a better employee, a boss to people, a leader, as you would say, not a boss, a leader to people. And I think that my staff, it's been really fun. Like, I came in the other day, you were here. I came out of my office and it's all decorated with baby stuff, and they're trying to pick out baby names, and they take care of me anytime I walk by. They're just concerned about me. So it makes you, human, because you're going through the stuff that they went through too.
Well, I think that's another lesson, though, isn't it? That transparency, the openness, the vulnerability connects you with your people. And so they will care a little bit more and they'll take the extra step. And I love the way it was all been set up, because the team is celebrating this rather than it being a matter of, oh, you're going off to do something and maybe you'll come back. It's a celebration. It's part of the organization because you've engaged them in what's happening.
Yeah. The first, and then just thinking back on your question, the first time around, I totally could have trusted my staff way more than I did. I had the doctor write a note that said, Liz can start working the minute the baby comes out. Like, you have to get a doctor's note to come back to work. I already turned that note in and I said, nope, I'm going to start working immediately. And that's not healthy for anybody. That's not healthy for me. That's not healthy for my employees. So this time around, really trusting that I have set my team up to be successful. When I talk about the things I need to get done before I go on maternity leave, all of those things just need to get done at some point in our business anyway. And if I were to say to my team, I need you to take the ball on this, it wouldn't be done the same way I would, which can create a little bit of anxiety, but it would be done really well because I have a very diverse perspectives on my team, and they would work together to beat up the project to make it where I would have gone with it as well, or better, probably better than I would have gone with it. So really like walking the talk and trusting my team, not only for me, it's not about me, it's about them, knowing that I completely trust that they will get it done in my absence.
Right.
And we've done exercises. We have a short-term contingency plan that we've created that helped us think through some of the little questions that you might not think about. So that helped a lot for both them and I. But that's, like, I'd say the second piece is really trusting that I've got some real smart people around me who I hired to be as smart as they are. And I don't need to guide them all the time. That's not where we're at.
Well, that's another great lesson, isn't it? You surround yourself with smart people and let them go at it and give them opportunity. It might not be perfect, but they'll certainly keep the ball going. Well, you go take care of what you need to take care of. So, and the opportunity will perhaps show some stars and show some opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Liz, thanks for joining us today. And I really appreciate you sharing, and all the best in the next few weeks. And in fact, this will probably go out just after So you'll be able to sit at home with fresh baby in your arms and listen to what you've been saying. So thank you very
Awesome.
much for joining us today, and all the best.
Thank you. Thanks so much, David.
You've been listening to the Humanergy Leadership Podcast. I'm David Wheatley, and we're brought to you by the book, What Great Teams Do Great, available now at all good bookstores. Thanks to Brian Spencer and Finkel for the music. Please share any feedback and suggestions. I'm available through humanergy.com. And go to iTunes, like, subscribe, and leave us a review so that other people can find us. In the meantime, till next time we meet, stay healthy.